Hello everyone and welcome to a different kind of video. You can see here we are on F1 2019. There's obviously been a fair bit of criticism about F1 24 in the last month or so, probably even a bit more. And I started to think back to career mode and sort of just remembered how different it used to be. So I've come back to 2019 here to have a look at this career because it was actually very different to any other F1 career in, well, really, ever really, as this was the year F2 was introduced, and it wasn't just introduced as a playable mode before you got into F1, it was actually a story mode with two fictional drivers, a rival, Devin Butler, that was his introduction to the games, and a teammate, Lucas Weber, as well, in F2. And so I wanted to sort of come back and relive this experience. It had cutscenes and everything, and I will play the cutscenes for you guys just in case you haven't seen it in a while or if you've never seen them before. But you can see here choosing our F2 team as Prema and our academy as Renault. And yeah, it was actually a really interesting mode that they ended up dropping. Obviously, it was sort of a bit of a tie-in to Breaking Point that we have now, but this was actually integrated into the career. So let's have a look at the first cutscene.
Prema's new driver really commanding the race here. Devin Butler still ruthlessly giving chase. These two have been really scrapping it out for the early wins in the championship. And something's wrong. Butler sees his chance. Some kind of mechanical failure. Picking up speed again. It's unclear what the issue was. Can they still finish this race?
Looks like an issue with the turbo. You've lost some speed at the top end, but you're very close to the finish. You can still compete and get some points here. Don't give up. Just do the best you can. We're all behind you.
So you can see we have our first scenario here in the F2 story, and it is that we have a car issue on lap 34 of 37 in Spain. We've got a teammate, Lucas Weber, right behind us. Devin Butler is leading the race, and he is our championship rival.
Your teammate is approaching and wants to get past. Repeat, Lucas wants to pass you.
And you can see there, we have from Jeff, actually, this is before we had Mark, we have Jeff on the radio telling us our teammate is behind and he wants to get through, and it's now up to us to decide if we want to let him through to score more points so for the team, really. But you can see here in this scenario, I do decide to let him go and see if he can catch George Russell up ahead in P4. And you can see we'll get another message from Jeff.
That's great. Lucas can push on now. Lucas wants me to pass on his thanks. I know it's frustrating, but you made the right call for the team. Now we're all with you. Just bring it home as best you can.
And you can see there Jeff and Lucas thanking us for letting him through. And so that is sort of the scenario mode done. We're then left to push on and see if we can hold on to our position, which we do hold on to P6. Weber was able to get Russell for P4 in the end there. So 6th place for us in this first scenario mode there. You can see Devin Butler wins the race here in Spain. And I really love this scenario mode. I wish they would continue it in future F1 games, where it's actually building a story on the lead up to you joining F1 with rivalries and teammates and relationships with other drivers before you actually make it to F1. And further on that aspect of building this story and actually making you feel like you're a part of F1 is interviews. This is something they did have in for a couple years and then removed, but I actually really enjoyed this feature. It makes you feel more like you're actually a part of the grid, a part of this paddock environment here. It's just some world building that actually makes you feel like you're a part of this world. But we're gonna now cut to the next cutscene in this little story mode here.
Hey, look, I know that wasn't easy letting me pass, but it was the right choice. It was good driving.
Yeah, that's how I describe it, mate. Just good, not great. 1 in 6. 1 in 6 makes the leap to F1. The other 5 are still watching their less talented teammates collect all their points. Shame, really. A lot of great drivers never get their chance because they do it all for the team.
Those teams got us here.
Yeah, but it's the drivers that take the risk. We should get the rewards. You ever won a race in F1? That's how winners think.
And remind me, how many F1 races have you won?
You watch this space. At the end of this championship, I'll be the one lifting the trophy, and I won't use my teammates to nick the podium.
Okay, I'm out. You believe what you want, Devon, but it's still early days.
He's either very clever or you're just a pushover. You really think if the situation was reversed, he'd do the same for you? You want to start looking out for yourself. No one else will.
And with that, we get our first glimpse at the personalities of our teammate and our championship rival, Devon Butler, and it gets you excited and ready to push on and wanting to push on to continue this career, and sets the tone for the second scenario here in Austria.
Look at them go! Devon Butler locked in wheel-to-wheel racing with his championship rival, desperate to shut them down and stop them getting past. And there's contact! Butler simply left them nowhere to go. There was just no way for them to have avoided that. And look, there's significant damage. Not sure if that was down to recklessness or sheer aggression, but I'm sure the stewards are going to have something to say very shortly.
Don't give up. You're still in this race.
And so with that, we have our second scenario here for Austria, 5 laps to go, and Devon Butler has taken our front wing off, and we've come in to the pit lane, put on a fresh wing, put on a fresh set of super softs, and it's now our job to chase Devon down and re-overtake him and outscore him in this race. He's also come in because he's been given a penalty, and so he's not ridiculously far ahead, but he is ahead obviously, as he did not have to change his front wing. So we get ahead there of Makino for P10, and we now close in on George Russell for P9. But again, I have done F2 in career mode leading into F1, but just replaying this little story here was so much fun. Seriously, I actually really enjoyed going through this little story mode and going through these different scenarios and actually having a rivalry with someone as we get ahead of Devon Butler here with 2.5 laps to go for P8, and we're now in the back of Gunther for P7. But yeah, as I was saying, I enjoy the F2 cars, and I enjoy doing the F2 season in the lead up to doing F1 in the career modes that we've had more recently. But this little scenario mode that we had with Devon Butler and Lucas Weber, and an actual story and feeling the rivalries on the lead up to joining F1 was so much more fun than what we have now, which is just getting an F2 car and race a season and there's no consequence, which really there's no consequence to this story mode, but there's an actual story and something to get behind and want to push on for as we finish the Austrian race here. And P7 ahead of Devon Butler, so getting that done. And something else I remembered is there was actually different cutscenes depending on if you beat Devon or not, or if you let Weber through in that first race or not. And it actually had a meaning to the little story that we had here as we get more interviews. And yeah, just something else to highlight here was the showmanship and sportsmanship that was a part of this game, the mechanics that they had here. As you can see, we'll answer this interview question and we get a showmanship increase there. So that was actually something that got added up to your driver and actually had an effect on your contracts with F1 teams. Some teams had a more of a preference for sportsmen's, and some had more for showmen's. And again, that was just another little thing that made the game feel more alive.
I was looking for you. Well, what can I say? I guess there's no other way to put this, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry for ever giving you the common respect that all racers deserve, because you don't deserve it, neither of you do. That was the dirtiest driving I've ever seen.
Ridiculous.
My thoughts exactly. I'm taking my line and I get smashed into? I'm fine, by the way, thanks for asking. And then I'm penalized for the privilege.
You're unbelievable. You deserved every second of that penalty, maybe more. I mean, aside from trashing the car, did you ever stop to think that maybe someone could get hurt?
Yeah. Me?
Fine, but winning at any cost is your strategy, not ours. You better watch yourself.
whatever.
Don't let him get in your head. He knows you're a better driver. So, on the track, stay away from him. He will try to force you into contact. That's how he wins, yeah? Let's get ready for the press briefing.
And yeah, as I was saying, if you don't catch Devon and he beats you in that race, I'm fairly certain that the cutscene's different and he's more smug and happy, and it's like he's come out on top in that as we head into the final race now in Abu Dhabi.
So here we are in Abu Dhabi. Each and every event in the Formula 2 calendar has led us here to this, the final event of the championship, and one that promises to be a spectacle every bit as exciting as we might have hoped.
And so yeah, as you can see, there is no cutscene to lead you into this race. It is just a race from start to finish on whatever distance you set your career mode to. In this case, I'm just doing 5-lap races just to get through here and just to really show you how this story mode plays out. And as we get underway, as you might have seen right before we got started, it said objective was to beat Devon Butler as we head into this final round on equal points, but he's won more races, so he, by default, leads the championship heading into this race. So that's all we got to do. We've got to get ahead of Devon and beat him in this race, and the F2 championship is ours. He's up in P3 at the moment. We've got all the work to do from P10. We did lose a spot or two off the start there as we dive it down the inside into the old chicane here at Abu Dhabi that is no longer in use, and we sent a massive dive bomb on Lando Norris here. Obviously, I wasn't taking the racing and the racing lines and everything super full on serious like I normally would when I'm doing it. I was just sort of having a bit of fun, really, being back on F1 2019. So yeah, a bit more argy-bargy there with Lando as we head down the straight now. With we go for a move on our teammate Lucas Weber to the inside here. You would think he'd maybe be a bit more generous to us considering we're in a championship fight, and we let him through earlier in Spain, but obviously that's not how the AI works, as we just about keep the car pointing in a straight line there, heading out of the chicane. We now have George Russell ahead of us to make a move on into the final corner, again nearly losing the car. I was still trying to get used to not just F2 cars that I don't drive super often, but also the different handling model of this F1 2019 game, but I was having a lot of fun driving these cars in this mode with this physics, as we now have Alex Albon ahead of us, and we catch up to him very quickly, and we're going to dive him down the inside here into this chicane once again. A good overtaking opportunity in these F2 cars. But again, I really enjoyed playing through this mode, more so than I have in recent years playing the F2 cars, or even sometimes the F1 cars, because it's like there's no story. It's just sort of race after race, and you have to make everything up in your head, which is fine. But this having an actual pre-built-in story with an actual rival that you want to beat, not just someone that you're going against, but someone you actually want to beat because of his arrogance and smugness. It was so much fun replaying this little story mode here again as we dive to the inside there of Butler. He's going to cut back us, so this has actually turned out to be a nice little battle here against a championship rival, as he does eventually get ahead of us, and he actually got the DRS, so I'm going to have to sit right on his tail down the main straight here to make sure he doesn't pull away. He's going to go defensive, so we'll look to the outside as he sort of sits middle of the track. We'll dive it to the outside on brakes of the outside for the first part of the chicane. We'll have the inside for the second part, and we do get the move done into P3 ahead of Devon, and that puts us into the championship lead. So we just have to hold on to this, but obviously there's a couple more spots that I would like to pick up here before we end this race. We'll go to the inside of Luca Giotto into the chicane, get that move done quite easily, and ahead of us it's the man himself, Nicholas Latifi in the dams. Can we close in on the Canadian to take the lead of the race and win the championship in style with a race win to finish off the season? He goes defensive to the inside, so we'll go to the outside here on the final lap of the race, and it's not going to be too much of a fight. You can see he does come back at us here, but we quite easily are just going to hold on to it here inside of the second part of the chicane, and we hold onto the lead there, and he's not going to have enough to close in on us before we finish the race, winning the race and the championship ahead of Devon Butler. And seriously, again, it was so nice, this moment, beating Devon and completing this story felt a lot better than just finishing the F2 story in the more recent F1 games. It was sort of more just like, oh, finally beat F2 and now I can actually race in the F1 cars, whereas this was actually so enjoyable and fun to race and see, beating Butler by 9 points there. Our teammate Weber finishes in P3 in the other Prema there. And yeah, I just want to sort of reiterate my point that I would really, really love for them to put something like this in the game again. You can see getting a sportsmanship increase there for ourselves with our interview answers. And yeah, there's so many little mechanics like that, and the story mode and everything adds to this so much.
Congratulations, mate. F2 champion.
Hey, congratulations. Enjoy it, because it's the last time it'll ever happen.
Devin, it's okay to be upset. You came very close.
Yeah, we know things would have turned out very differently if I didn't get slapped with that ridiculous penalty.
What is it with you and complaining?
Look, somehow you managed to do a lot of things right today. That's great. You needed the win, I didn't. For me, this was always just a stepping stone to F1. Oh, you two. You got your work cut out for you now that I'm gone. See, you're gonna have to prove to everyone it was more than just luck that got you here.
Sure. Winning one race is luck. Winning the championship is talent.
Really? Next time you use that incredible talent to ram into someone and steal all their points, remember they won't be as forgiving as I am. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I gotta run. Yeah, things to sign, important paperwork and all that. I'm sure you understand. Ciao!
So, with this big win, you're going to be getting a lot of interest. All I can say is choose wisely, or else you might end up with someone like Devin as your teammate. Come on, let's go celebrate.
And so after getting to annoy Devin for one final time, we head into the contract stage of joining F1. And this is something else I wanted to talk about. We had more environments in these career modes. You can see he's sitting in this little lounge area waiting for Emma to come out of whatever meeting she's in there and to go into her office to discuss our F1 contract. And it was just, again, these extra little things that added so much to the game and made it feel like you were part of this big revolving and evolving world of F1, meeting with agents and being in the paddock and having interviews, and it added so much to the game. I don't know why they removed it, because to me personally, as I've obviously made very clear in this video, I really enjoyed this sort of stuff, and it adds so much to the game and the story, whether you're making it up in your head or the story's pre-built in. But either way, it adds a lot. And you can see here Emma handing us her tablet so we can have a look at the contracts. Now we have this thing again. You can see in the bottom right the attitude preference of the different teams. It doesn't matter too much at the end of F2 here, because obviously we've just done F2. Not too much has actually been done in terms of your attitude, so you do have every team to choose from here. Obviously we're in the Renault Driver Academy, so that's what we'll go to. We'll sign with Renault, but you can see here this contract system I much preferred as well, as opposed to having a salary, which really it doesn't add to anything in the current game, having a salary. I actually really liked the gameness of having your contract affect the upgrade speed, the pit stop efficiency, the simultaneous development, and the race bonuses as well. You can see you've got your expected qualifying and race positions, your team order is second driver, your team goal is hard, you can see your value to the team, and the proposed contract value. It makes the contract period feel so much better, and even though you have a contract with Renault now, there's more to work for, there's more to push towards in improving that contract with pit stop times and upgrade efficiency and stuff, as we have another cutscene.
Sorry, I'm just on my way out, but your workstation's at the back over there. It should be all set up on the network, but let the guys know if it isn't. From there, you can access all the data you need to help us direct development of the car. Get yourself settled, and then head out to practice when you're ready. I'll catch up with you later, okay?
And so now we find ourselves with the very familiar workstation area with Ricardo, our teammate, sitting across from us. And this is a bit of a smaller thing that I want to bring up, but when it comes to R&D, I much preferred this R&D tree. I like being able to see everything on one screen and then being able to zoom in on the different departments. when you wanted to actually have a look at doing some upgrading. But I feel like it was so much easier and nicer to see the progress that you were making and where you could make progress to begin with, and having these little department upgrades you could make to the quality control and efficiency. Overall, I just felt that was a bit of a nicer package, but not that huge. But this was the big thing here, having Devin Butler and Lucas Weber join you on the F1 grid after that little story mode. It gives you those immediate relationships and rivalries with these two drivers now joining you in F1 to push for straight away. So obviously we signed with Renault, Butler's signed with Racing Point, and Weber has joined Toro Rosso, and they will move around the driver market just like all the other drivers. This was the first game that driver moves were actually introduced into F1 as well, which was another big thing. But you can see here, Reputation has made a comeback in F1 24 after being absent after 2019 here. But I feel like this is a bit nicer to look at. You can see we can actually have a proper visual of what teams think of you, which teams you gain reputation with over time, as well as obviously your current team there at the top. And overall, I think this is something that could very easily integrate into even F1 24, but obviously they won't. F1 25 maybe, just a little bit of a nicer way of presenting your reputation. And also here you can see your sportsmanship and showmanship. We're sitting pretty much dead center there, apparently with a slight lean towards sportsmanship. And with time, you'll see that move, and that will affect your reputation with different teams. Now, as we jump in, we'll do one round here, one quick round in F1, just to sort of showcase how this all goes. Again, you can see just a quick one-shot quali there to put ourselves on the grid. But like once again, just the thrill of finishing qualifying and seeing we were so close to our former F2 teammate Weber and ahead of Devin Butler felt so good that I couldn't wait to get into the race and see how this would play out. I was more excited doing this race here with these rivalries and relationships with these couple drivers on the grid that we moved to F1 with from F2, like more exciting than the current career modes, which is, again, as I was saying, just sort of, okay, cool, race, result, move on. Eventually you will make a rivalry with the real F1 drivers and F2 drivers as they come into the grid, but having this immediate affiliation with these different drivers, even though they're fictional, it felt real, and it was super exciting as we head to the grid now for the Grand Prix. Once again, it's going to be a quick 5-lapper just to sort of go through how this all goes. And I had not started a car, an F1 car on this F1 2019 game in a while. We were going into this fresh, and it was actually a decent start there. A little bit of wheel spin. Grosjean comes up alongside us. Weber right ahead of us there in the Toro Rosso. And as we head through turn 1, you can see I pull up the MFD, and I immediately remembered all these different settings. We had the fuel mixtures. I put that up to rich. We've got the ERS settings. There's no overtake mode, like no overtake button. You actually have to flick through these different deployment options. We've got it on high at the moment. Then you can go up to overtake and hot lap. You've also got low and none, so a lot more ERS modes to play with, a lot more to manage throughout the race, which I actually enjoyed. At the time, I remember being happy that it did just move to an overtake button. But coming back and playing these, I actually enjoyed getting to flick through these different options and playing with the speed of the car as we now look to the inside of Lucas Weber at this old layout of the Australian Grand Prix. He holds it around the outside there and gets a bit of a better exit, but we'll get the cut back here through the left, and we now come back alongside, flicking it up to overtake mode. We've still got Rich Mix going with the bit of extra fuel we've got on board into the S's. We get the move done into P9, and like I had so much fun in just that little battle because it's Lucas Weber, it's our teammate from F2 that we already have a pre-established relationship with as we head into our first race here in Australia. We have Hamilton now coming through. He had a grid penalty for some reason heading into the first round of the season, so he's starting behind us there, which is why we were promoted a spot when we started the Grand Prix, for any of you that noticed that, as we successfully defend from the Mercedes. How long are we going to hold on to that, though, as Weber comes back at Hamilton now as we head through the S's? Is he going to be able to hold it? No. Obviously, the Mercedes is much faster than both the Toro Rosso and the Renault here at this stage in the career mode, and he's going to fly to our outside. We'll go defensive, but he very easily sends it around our outside. Obviously, again, I'm still trying to get used to these 2019 cars. Very different to the 24 cars we have now as we head on to the final lap of the Grand Prix. Weber going to look to our inside of turn 1. He's got DRS. Hamilton has taken off in the distance. I'm trying to manage ERS there, so I've only got it on high, not overtake, as we try to get a cut back there through turn 1 and 2. Have to check up a little bit. We do get alongside our former F2 teammate into turn 3. We've got Daniel Ricciardo, our new teammate here in F1 in the yellow Renault. We'll go around the outside of turn 3, inside of turn 4. We do hold on to the spot there, holding on to the final points paying position this is actually for. So sort of an extra little story element that popped up in my head immediately is that myself and my former F2 teammate battling to see who can get their first F1 points, and it just adds that extra excitement, that extra thrill that you don't have in the current extra F1 games as we back it in at the end of the straight there. I've got the brake bias set a little bit too low, clearly, as we very nearly went straight off the end of the corner and into our old teammate Lucas Weber. Bottas wins the race in Mercedes. What a throwback that is. As we head through the final corner, we will hold on to P10 here ahead of Lucas Weber. Devin Butler, he's absolutely in the mud. I didn't even see him in this race. He's somewhere down in P15 or 16 or something like that. But wow, that was a fun race. I very easily could have done a 50% long race in this if I had have not needed to get this video recorded and out there. But yeah, that was so much fun, seriously. Finishing P10 there ahead of Lucas Weber in that fun little battle. Devin Butler ended up down in P15 or 16 or something like that. I was saying P15 there in the Racing Point. A bit of a shame not to have him there in that battle in this one race in F1 that we've done for this video. I'm sure further down the line we would have had some more battles with him if we afforded that opportunity and did more races. But yeah, as I was saying, this whole experience, the F2 story in this first F1 race was so much more enjoyable than what we have at the moment in F1, with the different environments and the different scenarios, and actually having rivalries in F2 in these little cutscenes and moments, and having those guys transfer into F1 with us and being able to essentially, you come into F1 immediately have okay, I've got to be better than these guys. I've got to be the first of us three to get a championship, and all these different feelings that you have in this career mode. I don't know why they only ever had it in this one single year. It was not in 2018, and it wasn't in 2020, and hasn't been in anything after that. Obviously, the whole story aspect has been transferred into the Breaking Point mode, but that's not career mode. It's its own separate story, and it would be really nice to just have this sort of thing back in F1 career mode. And obviously the sportsmanship and showmanship, I feel like they could easily bring that back and expand on it, and there'd be something you can do with it. Again, that was something else that wasn't in the F1 games for so long, but I feel like it had heaps of potential, and it just got dipped for no reason. The interviews to go along with it, I would really love to see those driver interviews come back. The environments, obviously I said Emma had her office, and that's where you went and discussed contracts and stuff. We have that again in F1 24 with Elena now, but yeah, there's so much more that could be done and expanded on. But if you guys did enjoy this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more content like that in the future, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.